Devaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining today. We're going to look at the life of Madhvacharya. Yesterday we looked at Ramanujacharya, and so we'd like to seek the blessings of Radha Madhava, Radha Shyam, Gonitai, Bal Gopal, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So, Madhvacharya, this is a very interesting painting of Madhvacharya, very, very powerful and strong guru, leader. So we looked at this timeline yesterday, how after Krishna, Buddha came, and then Shankaracharya came to reestablish the Vedas because the Lord Buddha basically had the Vedas rejected by society because of the violence committed to the animals. And then Shankaracharya reestablished the Vedas. But he preached monism, which is basically that one can become God. And this world is an illusion. And then the four sampradayas came. Rudra, Sri, yesterday we looked at Sri Nimbakacharya's four Kumara sampradaya, and then the Brahma Sampradaya, Madhvacharya. So this is what we wanted to look at. Again, we looked at this yesterday. And also we wanted to check a little bit more about the differences between the four sampradayas. This is a little bit technical, a little bit complicated. Differences in their philosophies. I do have something which I did find. Let me just see if I can successfully share that. Yes, it's come through. Okay. View, edit, view. Let me just increase the size. Right. So, Vashishta Dvaita, I haven't looked at this very closely recently. I just found it. But basically, this is the philosophy of Ramanujacharya, Vashishta Dvaita. Where they basically discuss about Brahman being infinite, the relationship between the Lord and universe is one of love, and we can associate with him as a parent or a friend or a lover. Brahman also stands in relation to universe and individual souls as self of each, providing the basis for their reality. As such, Brahman has matter and individual souls as his body. Therefore, the Supreme Being in whom all reality is comprehended. The Brahma Sampradaya is this Dvaita, purified dualism. And purified dualism is his Madhvacharya's philosophy. He makes an absolute distinction between God, animate and inanimate objects. God is the only independent reality. So that's the dualism, purified dualism. Specific monism still brings in the Brahman concept, Brahman being the sort of the effulgence of the Lord. But it distinguishes God and the universe, but it still has Brahman as its central foundation, as opposed to the personality of Godhead. So still Brahman is quite relevant in this Ramanuja's philosophy. But Madhvacharya, he makes a distinction between God and everything else, God being the only reality, the personality of Godhead. the four Kumaras, that is Dvaita, which is monism and dualism. So they have, again, they have two categories of jivas as materially conditioned or eternally liberated. And the jiva which is conditioned can still become a liberated soul through bhakti, which is what also Gaudiyas believe. And then the Rudra is Shuddha Advaita, which is purified monism. Everything is Krishna. Shri Krishna is Brahman. Brahman is Krishna. There is nothing else. Hardly any emphasis on Maya. Rather, there is no Maya. The world is real, it changes, but it is all Krishna. We are jivas in constant service of him, but also we are bits of him. We are spirit soul. Now, how is it different from the Gaudiya path? Now, Gaudiya path talks about this achintya bheda bheda tattva, which is simultaneous oneness and different at the same time. So jiva, although one with Krishna, is covered with, so can be covered in Maya when not with the Lord. So has to worship the internal potency of the Lord. And that's Srimati Radharani. The jiva is marginal, tatashta shakti, is marginal potency. So it can sometimes be in Maya, sometimes it can be in the spiritual world with Krishna. And therefore, jiva has to take shelter of the internal potency, rather to bring the jiva to Krishna. The external potency of Maya and the internal potency, the external potency is Maya and the internal potency is spiritual. So Maya factor is there. So some of these other more purified monism doesn't necessarily bring Maya into play. And hence why there's still some aspect of monism there. But it is a little complex, and it does need a little bit of work to understand the differences completely. It's quite technical, unfortunately. But let it be what it is. But that was just a little idea of these different aspects of philosophy, different aspects of philosophy. I think the safest one for us is this one here. Inconceivable oneness and difference. We are the same as God because we are spiritual in nature, but because we are tiny, we can come under the influence of Maya. Whereas God can never come under the influence of Maya because he is the boss of Maya. So I think this is the one which is easy to understand, and it's the absolute truth because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us this achintya bheda bheda tattva. So we stick with that truth. All right, let's have a look at Madhvacharya. Background. Lord Krishna stresses in the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is that God is a person. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. However, the spread of Buddhist doctrine in 500 BC of ultimate voidness eclipsed this knowledge for a time. So Buddhism, because he disregarded Vedas and effectively disregards the concept of God, brings in this concept of voidism, voidness. Then the great teacher Sankara drove Buddhism out of Bharat. But instead of saying all is nothing, which is what Buddhism says, he said all is one. You're God, I'm God, everybody's God. In other words, he upheld an all-pervasive spiritual reality, but said it was ultimately impersonal. Madhvacharya and other Krishna-conscious spiritual masters like Ramanuja soundly defeated this impersonalist view and re-established that the absolute truth is Krishna, Supreme Personality Godhead. Madhvacharya appeared with a mission to fight and defeat Shankaracharya's Mayavad impersonal philosophy. After Shankaracharya, who had previously toured Bharat spreading impersonalism, Madhvacharya also traveled the length and breadth of Bharat, preaching personal theism and devotion to Vishnu. So, he's an extraordinary life. Born in 1239 to 1319, Madhvacharya appeared as Vasudev in a village called Pachaka Kshetra near Udupi, Karnataka, in South Bharat, in a Shivali Brahmin dynasty as a son of Madhyagaya Bhatt. When he was only 5, he received spiritual initiation. He was way advanced for his age. When he was 12, he accepted sannyas, the most renounced order of spiritual life. At that tender age, Madhva gave up all family ties to travel the length and breadth of Bharat in quest of spiritual knowledge. He was considered an incarnation of Vayu. We are further told that whenever Madhava's mother was feeling anxious, he would come before her in one jump from wherever he happened to be playing. Even as a young boy, Madhva was renowned as a scholar. It is said that his father piled up many debts, that to pay them off, Madhva converted tamarind seeds into coins. Madhva also goes by the name Punna Pagya and Ananda Tirtha. He had an unusually strong physique and extraordinarily intellectual power, really empowered soul. Of course, he was an incarnation of Vayu, so his immense strength and mystic powers. There are some amazing stories surrounding Madhva's early life. It is said that near Madhva's house, a demon named Maninman lived in the form of a snake. Madhva killed him with the big toe of his left foot. Once a fierce tiger, Bengali tiger, attacked Madhvacharya's sannyas disciple, Satyatirtha. Madhvacharya wrestled the tiger and sent him away with his tail between his legs. Often in the province of Ganga Pradesh, there were fights between Hindus and Muslims. The Hindus were on one bank of the river and the Muslims on the other. Due to the community tension, no boat was available for crossing the river. The Muslim soldiers were always stopping passengers on the other side, but Madhvacharya did not care for these soldiers. He crossed the river anyway. When the soldiers on the other side, they got him, they brought him before the king was so pleased with him because of his bravery. He wanted to give him a kingdom and some money, but Madhvacharya refused. While walking on the road, he was attacked by some dacoits, but by his bodily strength, he killed them all. So he was extremely powerful personality. Madhva wrote 3 important treatises on the Vedanta Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. His theology is called Shuddha Advaita, pure dualism. More than anyone, he stressed the differences between God and the individual. So the others don't stress the differences so much. That's what is the difference between them, because they are either purified monism or specific monism. So basically, they don't so much distinguish between Brahman and the individual soul. That's the big difference. By giving a pure interpretation of Vedanta Sutra, he promoted pure theism. What do we mean by pure theism? That God is absolute. And we, the Jivatma, can never reach that platform of supremacy. So God's position has been completely defined by Madhvacharya. He named his innovative Shastric explanation Dvaita, but pure dualism. So this dualism is the difference between God and us. Madhvacharya's learning and devotion to Krishna were famous throughout Bharat. He He traveled extensively throughout Bharat and defeated innumerable Jains, Buddhists, Mayavadis, atheists, logicians, and agnostics. He was very strong in his mental capacity to defeat. He was very intellectual. In the course of his travels, Madhva visited Badrikashram, a place of pilgrimage high in the Himalayas. There he met the great sage Srila Vyasadeva, Lord Krishna's literary incarnation and author of the Vedic literature. So this is like 1200. So it's like nearly 3,800 years after Krishna left the planet. So we can see Ved Vyas is still there. He's still there. So Madhvacharya met him, took Diksha from him. So the line, the parampara of this Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is from Vyasadeva to Madhvacharya, because Madhvacharya met and studied under Vyasadeva. By studying, yes, Naniman.
It says studying under Srila Vyasadeva. Do you know how many years he studied and was still in the Badrikashram?
That is a good question. That's a very good question. I don't know how long they studied. It won't be too long, because the intellectual capacity of Madhvacharya was very high, very significant. So he wouldn't have needed to spend so much time with Madhvacharya, with Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By studying under Srila Vyasadeva, Madhva grew even greater in his scholarship. Vyasadeva gave him a Shaligam Shila called Ashtamurti, approved his Bhagavad Gita commentary, and blessed Madhvacharya with deeper realizations of the Shastras. So this is an interesting diagram, painting between Vyasadeva and Madhvacharya. In Udupi. Now, Udupi is a phenomenal place. It's in the south, on the southwest side. And we're hoping to visit this place when we go in August. After coming down from the Himalayas, Madhva at last returned to his birthplace, Udupi, and a wonderful pastime unfolded. Once the ship, while approaching the shores near Udupi, faced a great storm and was in imminent danger. Madhvacharya was standing on the seashore and directed the ship by waving his cloth. The ship was saved, and the captain prostrated himself before the Acharya, thanking him for what he believed was a miracle. He requested Madhva to take something as a gift. Madhva, by his inner vision, saw lying in the ship a heavy lump of gopi chandan, a type of white clay used for tilak. He asked for that as a gift. Surprised at this seemingly trivial request, the captain obliged. The Acharya put his hand inside the lump of clay, brought forth a murti of Bal Krishna, Krishna in his childhood. The deity was so heavy that the fact that the Acharya could carry it all by himself was astounding. But more amazing was the information he revealed on the deity. So interesting how in this Gopi Chandan was protected this deity. Very interesting. It was apparent this deity was apparently made by the divine architect Vishwakarma, who is the architect of the demigods, and was kept by Krishna's leading queen Rukmini in Dwaka, in Dwapa Yuga. So this is the murti, and Madhvacharya is so strong he carries it by himself. When Dwaka was submerged in the sea at the end of Krishna's time, the deity was lost. So that same deity is now still worshipped in Udupi. The deity has a stick in one hand and a lump of food in the other. As soon as Madhvacharya received the deity of Krishna in this way, he composed a prayer. Madhvacharya personally brought and installed this deity to Udupi. Worship of Lord Krishna's deity is still ongoing at Udupi, according to the plans Madhvacharya established. So I think I did have, yes, there you go. There you go. This is the deity. It's actually an absolutely magnificent deity. And you can have a closer look. Apparently on one hand, he's got Laddu. This is the temple from the outside. Really gloriously organized. Madhvacharya had 8 disciples, all of whom took sannyas from him and became directors of his 8 monasteries. He established these 8 maths, temples, to lovingly service Udupi Krishna. So these 8 maths are still going, they're still functioning. And they have scholars and priests being trained there on a full-time basis, according to ancient Gurukul traditions. And these personalities are really trained very well in the Vedic scriptures. The sannyasi leaders of each math worship the Krishna deity with the rigorous regime of ceremonial, ritual, punctuality, and impeccable personal conduct. Every Ekadasi they observe nirjal, total fast from food and water. This is a very nice lake here as well, which is just adjacent to the main temple. So, Madhvacharya's 9 teachings. Bhagwan Sri Krishna alone is supreme absolute truth, one without a second. So this is the dualism that is brought in. He's the object of knowledge in all the Vedas. The universe is real. So this is an interesting point. It's come from Krishna. It's got to be real. It's not false. Sankaracharya's contention was that the universe is false. It's Maya, just Maya, completely false. The differences between Ishwar, Jiva, and matter are real. Jiva's souls are by nature the servants of the Supreme Lord Hari. And there are 2 categories of Jiva, the liberated and the illusioned. Liberated moksha means attaining the lotus feet of Bhagwan Krishna. In other words, entering an eternal relationship of service to the Supreme Lord. Pure devotional service to Krishna is the only way to attain this liberation. The truth may be known by pratyaksha, which is direct perception, anuman or inference or logic, shabda, spiritual sound or Vedic authority. So how does this differ from the Gaudiya? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation in this line, Brahma, Madhav, Gaudiya, Sampradaya. So the Madhava Sampradaya, they actually have this very fixed notion of the big difference between Bhagwan and the Jiva. But what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, he brought in this concept of oneness and difference simultaneously and inconceivably. So where Madhvacharya is not emphasizing the aspect of the Jiva, which is one with Supreme, Chaitanya does, right? That's why he's explaining. It's achintya bede bede tattva. The Jiva is one with God. Same nature, spiritual nature, but very minute and marginal energy of God can be subject to illusion, subject to be controlled by the illusory energy of the Lord.
So, Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he expanded on the jivas role, what jivas are.
Effectively. That's
Yeah,
correct. That's
but
correct.
there's not much difference there, isn't it, between the two?
Well,
Apart
in
from
one sense,
jivas.
there isn't, because the Jiva is spiritual and the Krishna is spiritual. But in another sense, there's a huge difference, because the Supreme is, is supreme, is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, whereas the Jiva is only aware of his surroundings. God is aware of everybody's surroundings. So in one sense, there is little difference, but in another sense, there's a huge difference as well. That's that oneness and difference simultaneously. Inconceivable. So it's hard to understand, but in one sense, it's not hard to understand, because yes, we are just like a spark from the fire is the same as the fire, but it's tiny. Once it lands on the grass, it gets extinguished. So we also, once we land in this material world, our Atma, the soul, sort of gets completely covered by Maya. Does that make sense? Not even?
Yes, so this seems to be the main branch and then main tree rather. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he dig out what to say, a branch or something from this main concept, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
correct. He used this as the base.
yes.
In fact, he actually brought all the four sampradayas. He took teachings from all four.
Yes.
But essentially, the Madhva, as you said, the main branch is the Madhvacharya's line. Yes, that's correct. Because the others, they blurred the concept of Bhagwan, Brahman, and Jiva. A little bit blurred. Because it's, like we talked, it's either specific monism or what was the other term that was used? Purified monism. So that was not completely clear as Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya makes it very clear. We are different from God. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, yes, we are different, but we also have similarities. So it is complicated. It is complicated sort of to understand the philosophical differences between the four sampradayas. Is that okay, Naniman?
Yes, yes. Thanks.
Prabhupada's comments on Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya is the original Acharya for those who belong to the Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya. So that's exactly what you were saying. This is the base of it, the trunk or the branch. This Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is also known as Brahma Sampradaya because the disciplic succession originates from Brahma, who instructed it to Narad, who instructed it to Vyasdev, who instructed Madhva Muni, Madhvacharya. Among the four Vaishnavacharyas who are all accepted by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Ramanujacharya appeared in the southern part of Andhra Pradesh, at Mahabhutapuri. Madhvacharya appeared at Pachakam, near Vimanagiri in the district of Mangalore, or Udupi, we could say. This is where he was. Vishnu Swami appeared at Pandya. Nimbakacharya appeared at Mugera Patana in the extreme south. So they're all from the south. Sri Chaitanya Prabhu accepted the chain of disciplic succession from Madhvacharya, but the Vaishnavas in his line do not accept the Tattvadis, who also claim to belong to the Madhva Sampradaya. So within the Madhva Sampradaya, there's some sects as well. One of them is these Tattvavadis. And I'm not quite. To distinguish themselves clearly from the Tattvavadis branch of Madhva's descendants, the Vaishnavas of Bengal prefer to call themselves Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Madhvacharya is also known as Sri Gauda Purnananda, and therefore the name Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is quite suitable for the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Our spiritual master, Om Vishnu Paz, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj accepted initiation in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So this is from purport. So even in the Madhva Sampradaya, there are these Tattvavatis who have a slightly different philosophy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it can get very complicated and quite heated as well, I think, the distinctions between them. The Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya originates with Madhva. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers thoroughly studied Madhva's works before compiling their philosophy. For the Sandarbhas, Sri Jiva Goswami drew heavily from Madhva's writings. Jiva Goswami found the Gaudiya philosophy of Achintya Bede Tattva in Madhva's Bhagavad Padya. That's interesting. That's interesting. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself visited Udupi, the seat of Madhva's sect, and the Lord introduced Harinam Sankirtan into their sect. Before that, they were not chanting the holy names of the Lord in congregation in the Madhva sect. In the Prameya Ratnavali, Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan summarized the 9 principles common to both Chaitanya and Madhva's teachings. And I think the 9 teachings that we talked about are those 9 teachings, although I'm not 100% sure. In Vaishnava Siddhanta Mala, Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas to carefully observe the 9 instructions of truth given by Madhvacharya through our Guru Parampara. Now, interestingly, Madhvacharya serves as Madhavi Gopi in Radha Govind's eternal Vrindavan pleasure pastimes. He passed from the material world at the age of 80 while writing a commentary on the Aitariya Upanishad. Look, Gauranga took 2 teachings from each of the Sampradayas. So from the Sri Sampradaya, he said, unalloyed devotional service, free from karma and gyan, service to the Vaishnavas. Brahma Sampradaya, that's Madhva, complete defeat of Mayavad because of the distinction, the dualism between God and this Jiva. Worship of Krishna deities. Rudra Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami took total dependence on Krishna's path of spontaneous devotion. And from the 4 Kumaras, he took exclusive shelter of Radharani and exalted love of gopis for Krishna. So really, Mahaprabhu combined all of together. And this is the sort of this typical succession, starting from Krishna, Brahma, Narad Vyas, and then Madhva, and then all these others. And there's there are certain gaps where shiksha is considered more important than diksha, but we won't go into that. Okay, so that's Madhvacharya. Anybody, any questions or any comments? I think that's it. Yeah. Quite complex area of discussion, but can be challenging, can be very interesting as well. Okay, thank you so much. Madhvacharya ki jai.